Coach Frye stops by as we get set to talk about the Gamecock Invitational this weekend. First of two home meets at Sheila and Morris Craigor Track, and obviously coming off of a fantastic weekend at the Spec Towns Invitational. Coach, that's where we'll start. And I don't think you can talk about last week's meet without starting with the performance by Daryl Singleton, a big-time drop in the 100 meters, a new PR at 10:23, got himself on the all-time top 10 list here at South Carolina. Maybe most importantly, got himself on the top 10 list nationally in the 100 meters with that run. You and I talked after the meet. I know you said that you saw something like this coming for Daryl, that he's been training well, he's been a lot more consistent in his practice and his routines the last few weeks, and that something like this was coming sooner rather than later.
You know, when we first recruited Daryl, which is now 3 years ago, we saw those things in the early recruiting stage, and then he was a little injured his senior year, and then he got here and we were training hard, and he just keep having a little injury. He had to have a mesh in his hip put in, and it took him back. It took him back emotionally, and it's been a long challenge. Academically, he stayed very sound. He stayed with the commitment to the university. He loves the University of South Carolina, and he believed that he was good. Well, that's a big step, is believing. And then he started following everything that we needed to do as he got healthy. And this has been the first year that he's been completely healthy through the fall into the spring. And so we're starting to get the return on that gift. He is a gifted athlete, and so it's not a surprise. It just came a little later than we would have liked to have had it.
What does it say about Daryl and also about the support system at the University of South Carolina that after a couple years of adversity and some injuries and some stuff that a lot of people maybe could have either given up on or just kind of been satisfied with their times, that he's been able to find this new level after dealing with that for a couple of years?
You know, I think our services here, our academic support, our support in our psychologist, our sports psychologist, and our nutritionist, all band together for all of our athletes. And then so when they're coming through these lingering injuries, which nobody goes from injury to 100% back. That's a process, and so sometimes it gets misconstrued that the athlete is running through injury and he's not healthy yet. But you have to go through some of those things to get back to the 100, and that's a difficult challenge for both coach, the medical staff, and the athletes. So it takes more than just a workout on the track. So my hat goes off. I mean, it's something that major universities have those kind of services, and that's the benefit of being involved with a SEC-type program.
Another guy that is having a big bounce back from an injury-filled 2018, Isaiah Moore. Of course, he was a first-team All-American in the 60 hurdles indoor, and now looks to be headed that way again outdoors in the 110 high hurdles. I think he went 13:58 last week at Georgia, new season best. He's in the national top 5, and especially after taking a year off because of an injury, Isaiah is really running well this year.
Well, that's a product of sticking to it and believing in the system. Isaiah has a great gift. And he has a degree, and so he's taking advantage of having gotten stronger. And a big thing was his challenges are taking on a great competitor at Georgia at home, and that was a great run there. And I'm really proud to see that. The one he had at Florida was a good run. In the mist, on the back end of running behind a great runner there. So he's facing great talent. And now he's won versus a great talent. And now this weekend he gets to go against a medalist in the World Championship and an indoor world champion in Eden here at home from the USA. So, hey, he gets games just keep getting higher and higher. And if he can face those challenges after what we saw last week, then we'll look for a big season.
Indoors, I know you had a ton of success in the 4x4 relay, obviously, with the national championship on the women's side and the 5th place finish on the men's side. And it seems like those two groups are pretty well set as far as who your first team runners are on both 4x4s. But the 4x1s, I know you had a lot of competition and a lot of candidates to fill those spots, both on the men's side and on the women's side, and you had 2 good 4x1s last week, including, I believe, a victory on the women's side. So now that we're 4 or 5 weeks into the outdoor season, do you feel confident in which 4 you've got kind of as your primary runners, or are we still kind of giving people a chance to work their way into that pool?
Well, the pool is open. It's all the time. You can't be satisfied. I mean, just whenever you're number 8th in the country, this weekend, all the great ones are going to line up, face each other, and you could drop all the way to number 16. So you've got to be looking at how you can put together better pieces. And we think we got other combinations that even make us better. We got a very secure combination right now, so that's a combination that can get you to the NCs. We got to secure ourselves a good lane in the region in a conference meet. So there are lots of things going on, and then we got to get some people healthy. We still got last year All-American Maya Dendy hasn't had her opportunity to go into the relay pool, and so she gets healthy this week, and we add her on to the pool. We're trying to run a great mile relay and let Waddle run a great 400 this week. So we're pulling her out of the pool. So there are still things that we're trying to find out before we put this all together. So nope, I'm not quite satisfied with where we are. On the men's side, we had a big one going last week, and blew a baton trying to make that work. And Georgia ran 39.7, and we were well into the run of that one with Darrell off the back stretch and Fuller. I think our first 2 legs, Evan and Darrell, really can be a contestants versus almost anybody in the league. We just have to solve some things a little bit, that's coming. So I'm excited about this week. We'll try and put some of that together, so we should have a very good one running against some top people.
Of course, the highlight of this week's meet is really not even anything that happens competitively, although the meet does get started at 9 a.m. and runs all day out at Kreger Track. But the highlight is at 2 p.m. with the jersey retirement ceremonies for Mickey Barber and Terrence Trammell. Probably if not the 2 greatest Gamecocks of all time in track and field, certainly 2 of them. Olympians, in the case of Terrence, an Olympic medalist a couple times, national champions and SEC champions. I know it's they're 2 very special people to you, and it's going to be a special weekend having those 2 back in Columbia and with an opportunity to honor them by retiring their jersey.
Yeah, this is something that hadn't been done. Not very few people in the country retire jerseys of track and field athletes or swimmers or tennis players. Carolina stepped up with a different dream to try to get recognition other than the contest to be in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame is such a difficult place to go for athletes other than basketball, football, and so I think one of the pioneering thoughts by Coach Tanner was how do we recognize some of the country's best and Carolina's best such that our alumni can continue to appreciate them over the years. And so when we take Mickey Barber and Lisa Barber, if they were given the Heisman or a Byerman like they're doing right there hadn't been very many schools in the country that have had the #1 athlete indoors and outdoors at USACCA. Well, these are 2 athletes at that time were the Byermans, and we didn't. And so we get to give them some recognition that's life lasting. It will always be here at Carolina that they were the first to retire jerseys, and along the way with that, then they're medalists and they're all the other things could be, and they're great people, and it's something that Carolina can look back on from all sports. Trinity Johnson last week in base and softball was a tremendous. To not have her wear her stadium and walk in and recognize her is a shame. And so now that we've rectified those things, this is a rectification for acknowledgement of some of the best athletes in this university, and I would say in the country. And so I'm really excited about this. I'm glad that their family's coming out, and I'm glad that they're going to be the starters of our track meet.
Absolutely. Coach, best of luck this weekend. Like we said, 9 a.m. start time and 2 p.m. for jersey retirements this week at the Gamecock Invitational. Hope we got a big crowd.
I hope a big crowd shows up because we're going to have all of the USA qualifying teams for this summer's USA versus the World relays. And so they're going to be contestants doing that, and we're going to run against some of those people. Plus, Ohio State is here, Clemson is here, and along with another 2,000 athletes. And so it's going to be a great weekend. Pray for the rain and come enjoy yourself from 2 o'clock until about 5 o'clock. It'll be outstanding.
Thank you, Coach.